Hi, I'm Dijk, Executive Director of the Real Estate Forums here with Informa, and welcome to 10 Minutes with Jeff Mziray, Chief Executive Officer for DashQ. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, really, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Just a little preamble before we jump into the discussion about DashQ specifically, but there's a lot going on with purpose-built multifamily residential right now. I think it's fair to say that landlords and investors are dealing with rising operating costs, tight vacancy rates, yet still constant turnover, which we'll get into. Then there are issues delivering new supply, which we won't talk about, but it impacts the industry. And all of this is coming at a time where we're suffering from essentially an affordability crisis that there's no clear solution on the horizon. So I think it's fair to say that operating a purpose-built multi-res building is no easy feat, and landlords and investors are really just trying to be as efficient as possible while delivering the best experience and service to their tenants. So, with that in mind, tech and AI can be seen as a potential solution to some of the issues facing the industry. So my question is, why and how is this tech and AI coming to the industry right now?
Yeah, if you're like me, you're sitting in front of like an OpenAI ChatGPT for potentially hours per day, right? So it's at the top of everyone's mind, and it's just sort of natural. Leaders inside the next generation of leaders inside these organizations are like stepping themselves into like there must be a way to make this happen there, right? It's like it just seems so easy. Like I'm going to take this conversation, and why can't my organization adopt this, right? So I think what's happening is a lot of people are using it in controlled instances and potentially stretching those controlled instant uses, and it's sort of shining a spotlight on. I really want to see ways that I could watch this technology assist in my day-to-day function. So it's embedded all around us, and it's driving the curiosity of like the next generation of leaders in the multifamily space.
Yeah, and it's probably fair to say that, many landlords are at very different stages of adopting any type of technology. But you can't just slap a tech solution and especially AI onto an old platform and expect efficiency. I imagine it just doesn't happen that way. So there has to be some kind of prep work to almost get you to the starting line, right? So what's the process for a landlord to begin this transformation and take advantage of the AI solutions?
That's exactly it. It's just like I was saying, it's you believe because you're using an OpenAI platform and you can see the ingenuity and these large language models is there, but it's the data capture, it's the data capture, it's the internal definitions and libraries that are required. Even prior to that, it's beginning to look at your tenant operation potentially in phases. The prospect phase of the operation, everything from lead to lease, and then the resident phase of the operation, anything that could be surrounding like collections and messaging to portal-based requests. And once you sort of have the ability to sort of divide the lens, look at your organization from like leasing operations, tenant operations in terms of pre-tenant and like what do we want to call it, like resident services.
Yeah.
Then you can begin creating small projects within each of those engines to begin working on KPIs to improve sections of those of those prospect experiences.
Okay. So this may be a question that I imagine your preferred answer is, it's super simple and super cheap, but how hard or costly is it to apply this technology? And I guess, why do you believe this is the future of multifamily operations?
Yeah, it can be super simple and super cheap. It just depends on where the landlord is in the maturity curve. We've sort of created three different latitudes. We're calling one grouping a one-to-one. They're sort of like they've got a property manager that also does showings, that also fixes light bulbs inside of a unit, and they've got a portfolio that operates sort of in a franchising sort of level. Then we've got sort of clients that are in this sort of we're calling them dispatch, where they began this push towards centralization, which is sort of a recoining of role specialization, where they've got a leasing function. The same property manager may live in the unit, but they're just doing the light bulbs, they're not doing the showings. And then you've got maybe a call center function, and then you got inside that call center function, you've got people that are booking and triaging appointments across leasing rep calendars. If you're at that stage in evolution, then you're really you're bringing AI in, and you're just really supporting the call center function and really helping that operation maybe go from 13 to 3, and allowing for those personnel to go and support other aspects of the tenant prospect. So yes, it can be cheap and it can be easy. It just depends on where you're at in the maturity, in that mature. And then the last would be, I missed this, but the last would be this thing called distributed, and it's sort of like the holy grail. The goalpost is always moving, and you've got an operation that is adopted technology, you're moving to role specialization, and now you want to have like self-guided tours booked through the system, and like there's just like sort of levels on the spectrum. But one key thing to keep in mind, it shouldn't be viewed as costly, it should be viewed as costly to not. And there is methodologies that like us and other leading vendors put in place, which is like specific ROI at gates of the journey. So as you move from a one-to-one model, meaning you got the person living in the unit doing the stuff, and you want to move into a dispatch model and bring in a call center function with independent leasing reps, maybe you can justify that layering with a return on marketing by increasing lead to appointment rate by 700%. So just be cognizant that for any AI project, hold teams accountable to delivering like what is the business ROI impact at each phase. And if that's in there, then it should be viewed as not a cost. It should be viewed as a profit.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, because there's the cost side of the equation, but how costly is it to miss on a lead because they went down the road to another landlord because you didn't react soon enough, right? So
that's right.
That makes perfect sense. So
keep in mind that some of these landlords are keep in mind that if you have 10,000 doors, you're dealing with booking 90,000+ tours per year across multiple regions, with maybe 3+ million messages just to book those tours, to then get maybe 4,000 people to show up. Like there's a lot of mechanics in there to waterfall effect.
Yeah, I could see how AI could really help that.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, given the sophistication of different landlords, at what point do these landlords come and engage DashQ in this whole process?
My preference would be, if you're thinking about AI and you're a landlord, engage with us right away. We've done it. We're sending millions of automated communications, personalized, automated, qualifying communications, improving our customers' funnel, like measurably hundreds of percentage gain. So whether it's just to talk, brainstorm, like our whole team is centered around this. So I think as early as possible, educationally, we are hosting like different webinars and other sort of functions. So yeah, as early as possible is better.
Yeah. And I imagine this is, this should be considered a differentiator for landlords that adopt this solution. But I mean, given how critical the problem has been, and it seems to have gotten bigger over time, why hasn't it been solved sooner? Like,
yeah. It's a good question. I mean, like when you look at the existing tech stacks, landlords typically have managed tenants from a property perspective. It's like property management software that has found its way into tenant management. And now the new vertical of tenant management is like making a loud and proud, like we're here, the AUM, the asset under management is the audience. And the returns and staffing, the returns on happiness, the returns are there. So the reason why it had it's because the focus has been towards property, and then technology sort of limited to that. And then the second causation, I guess, largest causation would be there's been whether it's the large language models as a core base, the emergence of the large language models is driving AI at a record speeds. But there's there's more than that. There's the underpinning technologies inside a tenant management system, which would be like deep IVR or phone routing queues. So you have the multi-channel comms, because what good's an AI message that's limited just to email?
Right.
Then you have like, Microsoft Graph on calendar system syncing so that you can verify which reps are working which buildings when. Like, there's just a lot of ancillary technologies that are embedded inside of these tenant focused software solutions that, when paired with state of the art LLM solutions and with proprietary sort of dictionaries, directories that are sort of to each of the innovative groups, it just became available. You can't really be more than 3.5 to 4 years old and be at a true core tenant management software with the same underpinning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about lead gen, lead management, going through the whole lease workflow process. I guess what else does a solution like this that DashQ provides allow landlords to do after the lease is signed? I imagine, I believe you mentioned about collections or keeping the account current, but also, data insights is a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, AI will drive data insights because, like, just consider AI to be like a prompt layer where you can say, I would like to access X data point. What ends up happening is, on pursuit in the tenant management journey, you begin looking at data as an organization and creating structures and tables around it. That pursuit will then immediately drive data and insights. And if you look at it from a paradigm from the resident perspective, data, collections, responses to responding to tenant related service maintenance requests, all of that stuff will come out. But the barrier to any data gains will, again, it'll come down to the team actually taking a really comprehensive look at the data that they want, the project they want to establish around data, whether it's vacancy, turn, pricing, whatever that data is, the underlying data that's that the AI is using to support it needs to be verified and studied as well. So it's the AI. It's like, but so engaging with groups that have a specialty in helping landlords get from spreadsheets to database tables, to store procedures and structured definitions of their data to help ingest into the prompts is critical. But the gains can be quick and the gains can be meaningful.
That's brilliant. It's funny. We keep getting a lot of questions at our forums about how do people adopt AI, and you guys are doing it, providing that solution. So thank you very much for joining me here today. If people want to learn more, they go to your website.
Find me on LinkedIn. We're always around and looking forward to share more information.
Perfect. So thank you very much for joining me, Jeff, and everyone else for 10 minutes with Jeff Mziray, Chief Executive Officer for DashQ. Thanks.
Thank you very much, really. Good to see you.